Marcus Webb is 34 years old. He works in IT support in Columbus, Ohio. And on a Tuesday afternoon in March, his manager calls him into a conference room and tells him something that should have been good news: a $6,000 raise. Marcus drives home that night feeling like he finally caught a break. He calls his mom, he calls his girlfriend. He's already mentally spending it. Then Wednesday morning, a coworker, someone who's been at the company a lot longer than Marcus, stops him by the coffee machine. "Did they tell you that raise pushes you into a higher tax bracket?" Marcus says no. The coworker just shakes his head like Marcus is about to make a rookie mistake. "Careful, you could actually end up with less money." And here's the thing. Marcus believed him, not because he's careless, not because he's bad with money, because that's what the fog does. It doesn't sound like a lie. It sounds like wisdom from someone who's been around longer. By Thursday, Marcus is seriously considering asking his manager to cap the raise, to stay safe, to turn down money he earned because of 7 words said near a coffee machine. He almost does it. Stick with me here, because what happens next, and more importantly, what's actually true, is going to change how you think about every raise, every bonus, every dollar you ever earn for the rest of your life. I'm Ted. This is The Wealth Architect, and today we're tearing apart one of the most expensive lies in personal finance. A lie so common, so casually repeated that most people never think to question it. Let's go back to Marcus for a second. Thursday night, he's sitting on his couch, raise letter in hand, genuinely about to email HR and ask them to reduce it. But something stops him. A small, stubborn thought. Wait, let me actually check this before I throw away money. So he does something almost nobody does. He opens his laptop. He searches it, and what he finds doesn't just surprise him, it makes him angry. Because his coworker was wrong. Not slightly wrong. Completely, fundamentally backwards. And the worst part? That coworker probably believes it to this day. Still telling new hires the same myth. Still costing people money in coffee machine conversations all over the country. And honestly, all over the world, because this confusion isn't unique to one office, or one company, or even one nation's tax system. Here's the myth, stated plainly, so you recognize it the next time someone says it to you. If you earn more and cross into a higher tax bracket, the government taxes your entire income at that higher rate. Sounds logical, right? That's exactly why it spreads. It feels true. It is not true. Not even close. Here's what's actually happening. And I want you to picture this, because once you see it, you'll never unsee it. Picture your income like water-filling buckets, stacked one on top of the other. The first bucket is small. Every dollar that lands in it gets taxed at the lowest rate. Once that bucket's full, the extra water doesn't go back and re-tax the first bucket at a higher rate. It just starts filling the second bucket at a slightly higher rate. Then the third, then the fourth. Your raise doesn't dump water back into bucket 1 and somehow tax everything in there more. It only touches the new water, the new dollars, nothing else. That's it. That's the entire myth. Destroyed in one image. Marcus's coworker pictured one big bucket. The truth is a staircase of buckets, and you only pay the higher rate on the water that spills over the top. So let's go back to Marcus's actual numbers, because I promised you the proof, and I'm not going to make you sit through a tax seminar to get it. Just one clean comparison. Before the raise, Marcus was taking home roughly 2/3 of his $45,000 salary after taxes and deductions. Call it about $38,500 landing in his bank account over the year. After the $6,000 raise, even after crossing into that scary higher bracket, his take-home went up. Not down, up by roughly $4,900. Read that again. A $6,000 raise. Almost $5,000 of it landed in his pocket. The bracket only touched the sliver of new income above the threshold, not the whole raise, and definitely not his original salary. Marcus almost gave away $5,000 a year, voluntarily, based on something somebody said near a coffee machine. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because Marcus isn't rare. He's the rule, not the exception. There's a warehouse supervisor turning down overtime shifts because she's convinced it'll bump her into a higher bracket and cost her money. There's a teacher declining a department chair stipend, real money, meaningful money, Because her brother-in-law warned her about taxes at a barbecue 2 years ago and she never questioned it. There's someone right now, maybe watching this video, who turned down a promotion or negotiated softer than they should have, or asked their boss to keep the raise smaller because of this exact myth. If that's you, I'm not telling you this to make you feel foolish. I'm telling you because almost everyone has been taught this wrong. This isn't a personal failure. It's a systemic one. Nobody sits you down in school and explains how marginal tax brackets actually function. You inherit financial beliefs the same way you inherit accents, by absorbing what's around you, not by being taught directly. That's social conditioning, and it's quietly shaping decisions worth thousands of dollars for millions of people who've simply never had a reason to question what they were told. If your mind is already running through every raise, every bonus, every overtime shift you second-guessed because of this, pause for a second and really sit with that number. We're not done. There's a second layer to this that's even more expensive than the bracket myth itself, and almost nobody talks about it. If this is hitting different than what you expected, hit subscribe. This channel exists to clear the fog, one myth at a time, and the next one might be the most expensive video you watch all year. Okay, layer 2, because understanding that brackets are marginal, that's step 1. But there's a number hiding underneath all of this that almost nobody knows exists, and it's actually more useful than the bracket itself. It's called your effective tax rate. Here's the difference. Your marginal rate is the rate on your highest dollar, the top bucket your income reaches. Your effective rate is the average across everything you earned, the real percentage of your total income that actually goes to taxes. And for most working people, that number is dramatically lower than the bracket they think they're in. Marcus assumed he was about to lose 22% of his income, his actual effective rate. The real percentage of his total earnings going to federal tax was closer to 12%, almost half of what he feared. This is the number that should guide your decisions, not the scary bracket label, the real blended cost. And once you know that number for your own income, every future raise conversation changes. Every negotiation changes. You stop being afraid of a number that was never actually true. Now here's layer 3, the part that turns this from interesting fact into something you can actually use. There are levers most people don't know exist. Tools that change how much of your income even gets taxed in the first place, before brackets matter at all. Contributions to a retirement account. Pre-tax health savings accounts. These reduce what's called your taxable income, the number the brackets actually apply to. So if Marcus's raise was $6,000 and he chose to put $2,000 of it into his retirement account, his taxable income only increased by $4,000, meaning even less of it ever touched that higher bracket in the first place. This is the part nobody explains. It's not just that the myth is false. It's that there are real legal tools sitting right in front of most people that make the entire bracket conversation almost irrelevant. You're not just avoiding a fear, you're missing a strategy. The blueprint was never about dodging taxes. It's about understanding how the machine works well enough to stop making decisions based on fear instead of facts. Let's close the loop on Marcus. Thursday night, instead of emailing HR to shrink his own raise, he closes his laptop and he does nothing. He just lets the raise stand, the full $6,000. 6 months later, that higher salary becomes his new baseline. The next year's raise is calculated off a bigger number. His retirement contributions, tied to a percentage of his salary, quietly grow too. 2 years later, when he negotiates a new role internally, his starting point for that conversation is meaningfully higher because he never shrank himself in the first place. One myth, almost believed, could have quietly capped his trajectory for a decade. He'll probably never think about that coffee machine conversation again. But somewhere in that office, his coworker is still repeating the same myth to the next new hire. So here's what I want you to actually carry with you from this video, not as a recap, but as something you use the next time it matters. Tax brackets are marginal, not absolute. A raise can never shrink your take-home pay. That fear was never grounded in how the system actually works. Your effective rate, the real cost, is almost always lower than the bracket label makes it sound. And the tools that reduce your taxable income before brackets even apply are sitting right there, mostly unused because nobody explained them clearly. The next time someone tells you to be careful about a raise pushing you into a higher bracket, you'll know more than they do. And you'll know it not because you're smarter, because somebody finally explained it in plain language instead of letting the myth pass quietly from one coffee machine conversation to the next. If you've turned down money, a raise, a bonus, overtime, a promotion because of something close to this myth, you're not alone. And now you know better. Send this to the one person in your life who still says, that'll just push you into a higher bracket. It might be worth more to them than anything else you send them this year. And here's the question I want in the comments below. If you added up every dollar you've ever turned down because of a money myth you were taught instead of taught the truth, would the number surprise you, or did some part of you already suspect it? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.